It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast. Buckle up. Day, I might go through all this trouble and then I get in the edit bay and I'm just like watching all the footage and everything and I'm just like, I mean, this is cute and it's nostalgic, but there's no story, there's no arc. Your experience in Pennsylvania has no interesting like narrative, and then I'll just be like, oh, well, now it is a documentary because it's a documentary, but I kind of want it to be emotionally. I want people who maybe have never heard of the church, maybe know nothing about Pennsylvania, know nothing about me,
right, to
be able to come into this thing and be like, okay, this is interesting, and like an hour and a half in, just be like, that was really
well,
great.
The church does get a lot of slack, so I mean, I'm no longer part of the church, but, I mean, I guess technically I am. I think they still have my records, but
I imagine
I've not practiced since I got baptized.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it like right away? Because I lost touch with you, like. And I mean, you were baptized like right when I got here, so I was here for another 7.5 months. I don't know if me and after Barnell went home, I don't know if me and the new guy even ever visited with you.
I don't think so, because Barnell, because you weren't the original one.
Right, was it Bingham?
I think that sounds right.
Okay.
My mom loved him. He was hilarious. My favorite was Barnell, though. I loved Barnell.
He was like quiet, but like funny. He was like really quick and really like I don't know, kind of like aggressive's a bad word for it. He was just very he was playful and
yes, and you didn't expect that from him.
Right.
He doesn't come off that way.
Not at all.
But he was definitely something.
Did he try to stay in touch with you at all? I swear to you, I've been looking for that guy for 15 years.
I have too.
Are you also as if he never was born? Yeah. Zero record.
I had to ask my mom. See, I called my mom after you contacted me. I called my mom and I'm like, "What was Barnell's first name?" And she couldn't remember. I can't remember. And I'm like, I can't find him.
I'm gonna explode your mind right now, Joseph.
That's it. That's it.
But buckle up for the disappointment. Zero Joseph Bonnell. In Alaska, where was he from? He was from
Alaska, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I used to know the name of the town. It's, not gonna come to me right now. But, I
had to call and ask, I called my dad, and I'm like, can Mormons have, social media? and Dad's like, well, yeah, Sister Cogley has a Facebook.
Okay, that makes me happy. Is she still alive?
Dude, yes. My grandmother is still part of the church, kind of.
Yeah.
Sister Cogley comes to them and sees them once a week.
Yeah.
Still as spicy as she ever was.
How is that possible? She was in her 70s when I was here.
My dad says that she was old when he was a kid. She's the one that made it worth going to church, though. She used to pick us up. It was me and my brother, a couple of my cousins. She would come and bring a bus and take us to church every day Sunday because my parents were over the road. My grandmother didn't want to go. So she was always the one that I went to. But she actually broke her arm 2 years ago on top of a roof. She's in her 90s.
That's her. That's her.
What
was her situation? She was married and he'd passed years before I even knew her.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
she still just single and just serving people? And
yeah. Yeah, she makes blankets for all the kids. She's at Walmart all the time preaching, I guess. I saw a post on Facebook the other day of a woman running into her at Walmart and just had this long post about her, and I'm like, that's Sister Cogley.
Yeah, impacting everyone's life. Now that I'm thinking about it, one of my biggest regrets in life is I've been home maybe a couple years, and I went to visit my parents, and And they were like, hey, a Sister Cogley called for you. Here's her number. And I was like, cool. I knew who she was. But I was just like, right on.
Yeah.
And I just pocketed the number and did nothing about it. Like, now, just, what an a-hole, dude. Like, this sweet woman.
Yes.
She, like, every missionary that came through, she's like, write down your name, your address, your phone number. Like, we're totally going to keep in touch. And she did it. She went out of her way to be like, how is your life going? And I'm like, you're not worth my time. Shame on me. When heaven comes, I'm just going to let her punch me right in the face.
I say the same thing all the time. Because
You're-
she's become very aggressive with her older age, I've heard. My grandmother, her and my grandmother kind of butt heads, I think, sometimes. So, because my grandmother's in a weird place right now. She's a survivor of, like, aggressive breast cancer.
Wow.
So she's still part of the church, but they don't go. But Sister Cogley and the missionaries come and visit her every week. So, I mean, she's still part of it.
Yeah, she probably feeds them all the time.
Yeah.
So, remind me, because when I showed up, you were, like, on date for baptism, and I just basically came into your baptism. Did the missionaries find you because your parents were members, and, like, they just came to visit them, and then there you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, when I think I was like 7 when I remember the missionaries coming around.
Wow.
My mom got baptized in Texas. We were part of the Mormon church in Texas, and my mom got baptized. And I remember being there with, like, her lessons. And
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, that is definitely something I want. And, like, my dad he still is very...
I think I only met him the one time at your baptism, because he was driving a lot at the time.
Yes, he still does. But he was so into the church, and so, I mean, my grandmother, they were part of that church when they were kids, I think.
Did I know your grandmother? I don't
Darla,
think
she was there.
Was she?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Yeah, the whole family was part of the Mormon church, like, I think since my dad was, like, a kid.
Wow.
They're part of the same church there in Ford City or wherever it is, containing... I haven't been there forever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the meeting house was in Sarber.
Yes.
I think that's where you got baptized.
I think so, yeah. I just passed it.
I haven't been out here in a while, so I don't know how they've, like, rearranged the boundaries or anything, but yeah.
And my dad was always pushing me, and we read the Book of Mormon every week.
Wow.
He's the one that pushed me into wanting to be baptized. Now, I was supposed to get baptized at 8, but I remember I got in trouble at church. I think I was smacking gum. It was one of those times, Sister Cogley, like, we all got in trouble.
I was going to say you were a high-energy kid, but you had maintained that energy level through adulthood. It's so fun.
Yeah, I got in trouble, so my dad's like, okay, like, you can't get baptized till you're 9, until you're responsible, so he pushed it off. And my goal was for him to baptize me, but it didn't happen.
No, it didn't. So, you mentioned before we started recording that things pretty much fell apart right away. What are your memories of, post-baptism? What happened?
I don't really know. Because after everything went down with my parents, my dad moved to Georgia, and my mom married a man from Fenelton, and he was a Methodist.
Oh, okay.
So we started going to his church a couple times.
Yeah.
And at that time I was fighting my mom tooth and nail because I'm like, no, I'm a Mormon. I don't want to go to a Methodist church. And I didn't really understand all of it.
Yeah.
And then my dad, he just quit going to church. Because when, at 13, I moved to Georgia with him. My mom stayed up here and I moved down there.
Yeah.
And we went to a Mormon church down there a couple of times. It just didn't feel the same. It just, they were more on the stricter side than we were up here.
Yeah.
And I think I know all Mormon churches are more strict, but that one was just...
No, there's a bunch of doctrines, there's a bunch of guidelines, but yes, all across the planet, I imagine, everyone kind of has whatever piece of Mormonism I guess they favor, or they, whatever, so it gets different.
And I was like 13, and my dad decided that he just didn't feel like he was a Mormon anymore, he didn't really want to do any of that, so we started going to a Pentecostal church down there. And it was really different.
Yeah?
The first time I heard someone speak in tongues, I was freaked out. Like, he was working with a guy, he worked at a Walmart distribution center as a supervisor, and one of the guys there went to this church. So they become really good friends, and we started going. And the guy, this woman started screaming in tongues, and I just remember looking at my dad going, what the heck is she doing? Like, what is going on? So then we had to go home. My dad had to have this big discussion with me about what all that meant. My dad was a chaplain's assistant in the Army, so he knows about all the religions.
Nice.
So he's like explaining to me what it was, and then I remember him and my stepmom having this conversation. Like, he didn't feel like it was the right place for him. Wow. He didn't like it. He didn't really enjoy it. He's like, I don't really think that tongue thing is, whatever. But for some reason, we went back.
Yeah.
And he really got into a relationship with the pastor, and we stayed there for a while. Like, I went to youth camp there. I actually got to where I got resaved, and I was speaking in tongues. And
wow.
Yeah, it was actually...
Walk me through this then, because it's something I'm fascinated with, because Mormonism believes in speaking tongues and in the interpretation of tongues, but that's sort of how it gets poised in Mormon doctrine, is that when someone is speaking in tongues, it is certainly them being full of the Holy Ghost. However, it's not just like an ejaculation of spiritual whatever that serves no purpose. When someone's speaking in tongues, what is being said is intended for the group and the audience that they're around. And as a result of that, when anyone speaks in tongues, there is always someone else in the congregation who is inspired to interpret.
Yes.
So there is the tongue being spoken, and there's somebody who can then translate that into English so everyone can be edified.
I remember
you having actually spoken tongues. Like, what was your experience?
It was at a camp.
Okay.
It was at a church camp. It was like during the summer. We went for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I got saved. And I remember having gum in my mouth, which I should have known better, because my entire life going to church, I got in trouble once because I popped gum, and another time but I had gum in my mouth, and I just started crying. I walked up to the altar, and I just remember screaming, twirling around, and when my eyes were closed, I kept seeing like this white light in front of me.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I just could hear myself keep talking, but I had no idea what I was saying. And being a church full of youth group, the pastors and stuff weren't translating. So I have no idea what I said. I have no idea what I meant. Yeah. But I remember seeing the white light, and I remember seeing the shadow of a man in front of me.
Wow.
And when I woke up, I was on the floor, and the first thing I thought was, I kept my gum. My gum was still in my mouth. But it was an awesome experience. It really was.
Wow.
I don't think I've done it since then. And we stayed at that church for a long time after that, too, because my parents or my stepmom and my dad were part of it, and they both got saved, and then we moved to Kentucky, and that's when it all kind of fell apart.
I love your Instagram feed. It's so fun, and it's just so full of joy and love and wonderfulness. I get the feeling like anybody who's been down the path that I can only assume that you have been down to get to where you are, all of the stories are just compelling and interesting and full of challenge and full of triumph and what have you. We're in a space politically where I feel like I need to identify exactly how you identify so that we can even have this conversation. Do you just identify as lesbian or...
No.
No, okay.
I'm pansexual, which means...
Help me understand.
Okay. Pansexual means that you fall for the person.
Oh.
Not what's between their legs, not... Because technically...
Wow.
Like right now I'm married to a woman,
okay.
but she is actually in the middle of transitioning.
No kidding.
Yeah. She's getting ready to start the hormones. So actually it's going to be a he now.
Wow.
So... Yeah.
You gonna do the whole nine with the genitalia and everything? Like
she wants to.
Wow.
Her first goal is she wants to do the top surgery.
Okay.
And then eventually she does want to go through with the whole thing.
When you were married before, was that to a woman as well?
A man.
That was to a man.
Yes.
Okay.
We got together my junior year of high school.
So sexually, you're heterosexual in the sense that your attraction has been to, I guess, male energy, and
Yes.
the pansexuality of this situation is that the human that you met
Yes.
just captured you in that way, and regardless of anything that you might be needing sexually, this human needed to be a man, and so
Yes.
she is going through the process of becoming a he, and then you, having your heterosexual natural tendencies, are going to be able to enjoy that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she had
Fun.
she just now came to this realization about maybe a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Her life was...
Oh, so you guys were like together before any of this even happened?
Yes, we've been together 5 years.
Wow.
And, well, 5 years is August. And
Did she ever mention it beforehand? So you just, when you married her, you were just like, I am in love with this woman and I'm
Yes.
so excited to spend my life with this woman. And then all of a sudden, she's like, just
Mm.
laying in bed at night, she's like, hey babe, I've been thinking.
Well, her life was weird.
Okay.
She grew up in a very strict religion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what it is. They call themselves Church of God.
So something
But-
Christian-based.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're very strict. Skirts, long hair, no makeup.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were actually really good friends in high school.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
really good friends. We were...
So she knew you through the first marriage?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. She was a year behind me in high school.
Uh-huh.
And we were all hung out with the same people. So when I first met her, long skirt,
Mm-hmm.
long hair. She came out at 15. She came to me and my best friend at the time and was like, you know, hey, I gotta tell you guys something. I'm a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my friend, we were in the cafeteria, and I looked at my friend, and we looked back at her, and we're like, we know that. We thought you knew that. So she told her parents, and they were not happy,
Wow.
to say the least.
Yeah.
They called her disgusting, and her mother actually had to go throw up. But they told her that, you know, whatever, just don't bring anybody home. You're not allowed to date, whatever.
Oh, so really tiny silver lining, like she hasn't been cast out of her family. They're just like,
She has now.
we don't want. Oh, okay.
Kind of.
Yikes.
She actually, at like 17, 18, she moved up the hill. Her family farm, her parents live on the bottom of the hill, and her grandmother and grandfather lived on the top.
Okay.
So she kind of lived up there and was taking care of them. At 18, she got a job outside of the home
Mm-hmm. and
cut all her hair off the day she turned 18. And her parents weren't happy about that. She started wearing jeans. They weren't happy about that. But at 18 is when I was just getting ready to turn 21,
Mhm.
and I was getting divorced, and we started hanging out outside of anything because at the time we couldn't hang out in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So we started hanging out, and we realized that there was something more between us, and that's when we got together, and her parents kicked her out because her father came to her one day and was like, I feel like you and Kacie are more than friends, and you know we can't have that. So, kicked her out. She got excommunicated from the church.
Wow.
It actually was so bad that her dad, like, she had to stand in front of the church and get, like, bashed, basically.
You can't just like walk away and they can do whatever they want about it. Like
Yeah.
they have to make a example out of you.
Yes. And, like,
Ugh.
apparently one of the pastors kidnapped her once and took her to his house and was, like, saying, you know, you're gonna go to hell, you're disgusting, you're gonna be blah, blah, blah. It's an
Wow.
abomination.
Note to listeners: don't
Yes.
be a member of this church.
Yes.
Holy
And it was
crap!
a long time. Like, we got together and she kept telling me, you know, I don't want nothing to do with God. I don't care.
Oh, totally.
Because why would she? I mean, her parents shoved him down her throat.
The worst possible taste in her mouth about it.
Yes. And it took us to be together 2 years before I got her to go to church.
Yeah. Wow.
I started to go to church at a church in Kentucky called Three Trees.
Okay.
And it's just a regular Christian, but it was more like an upbeat
Yeah.
And I actually got an email from them once because I contacted them about, hey, I'm with this woman. You know, how do you guys feel about that before I start coming to your church?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, we don't agree with it, and I give you scripture, but we're not going to bash you for it.
Yeah.
We're not going to make you feel unwanted. And I really liked that.
Mhm.
So we started going there, and she really opened up. She's not what you would say religious now.
Okay.
And I mean, neither am I. We don't believe in organized religion.
Mhm.
We figured out that it's just not for us. We believe in love and we believe in respect, but we don't. Organized religion to me is just an excuse. I don't think you have to be anywhere to worship God. Like, I pray every day. I don't really believe in the Bible, but I do still believe in God. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's interesting. Considering that I imagine most of the American idea of who and what God is comes from the biblical presentation of Him, where does your perspective of it?
I believe that the Bible is a very good story. And I believe that it's a very good teaching tool. And I believe it's something that people can map their lives through. I really think it's wonderful. Like, my grandmother, the first time I told her that I don't really believe the Bible, her mouth went, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, no, I'm not telling you that it's not. I still read it. I still think it's a wonderful tool to live by. But
now I'm confused. I feel like if I didn't believe the Bible, I wouldn't even bother spending time with it because, and it came to pass and thus thee thou. Like, it's a really tough book to get through. Like,
I love the stories.
Yeah?
Like the Old Testament I love. The New Testament, yeah. But the Old Testament, I love. But
it's like most Christians are so opposite. What about, like, the fire and brimstone and the, like, Lot's two daughters, like, hooked up with him to, like, keep the race going? Like, there's so much insanity in the Old Testament.
People use it to fight for their own battles. I mean, how many times do gay people get told you're going to hell because the Bible says don't lay with a man? But then in the very next scripture, it talks about we can't have mixed fabrics. You're not allowed to wear mixed fabrics. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that.
Right.
But we all do.
Yeah.
And nobody complains about that. I don't see any, like, big rallies going on because we're wearing cotton and, but there's a lot when I went to Pride last year. The first day, there was protesters right outside the gates saying that we're all going to hell because of who we love. Now, Pride is a little out there sometimes, but...
So, I've never been, but I can only imagine that it's just an explosion of love and acceptance.
It's love and acceptance, and you get the weird people.
Weird as in, like, fanatical?
They all walk around half naked.
Oh.
But it really is, like, we went to a gay club last weekend that was closing, and it's just, I don't know, to be somewhere where you're accepted and you don't have to worry about anything, it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Ashley doesn't really get into religion really at all. She can talk your head off about it. She reminds me a lot of my father in that.
Wow.
Like, she's really interested in it all, but she just doesn't.
I mean, do you think it's just a situation where the emotional hurt keeps her from, I guess, emotionally or spiritually investing herself in some sort of belief system, but she wants to, and given enough time and distance from those emotional hurts, at some point she's gonna...
I think so. Because, I mean, she kind of, like, agrees with me, like, we know there's something out there. Mm-hmm. We know that there's what we would call God. Mm-hmm. Because, and I told everybody, like, if God did not want me and Ashley to be together, then He wouldn't have blessed us as much as He has. He has gotten us through so much crap in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I
mean, her being almost completely disowned from her family. I mean, their relationship is a little better now. Yeah. I mean, they still don't talk to me and they still hate me. Yes. But, like, they're not allowed to share a meal with her. It's kind of like being shunned from the Amish, is what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to really do anything with her. But they talk to her, they video chat her. I mean, as far as I know, they have a decent relationship. They don't want anything to do with me. But she also has an 80-some-year-old grandmother that suffers dementia that Ashley is very fully emotionally invested with. Oh. So that's where, and I think once her grandmother does pass away, I don't think there's going to be any love lost there. But we'll see how that goes. But my family accepts me. I mean, they don't like it. My dad has made gay jokes my entire life. And when I tried coming out at 16, he threw a fit. I tried coming out to him when I was 16 years old, and he just threw a living fit.
So, I mean, you have memories back to even when you're like 6 years old and stuff. How early did you know?
I would say I was in middle school.
Wow.
Because I had a friend at the time that I didn't really know what it was. I mean, I remember hearing, my dad used to make this joke about Ellen DeGeneres being a leg licker. I didn't know what that meant.
I almost don't know what it means. Like, I have a visual, and I'm like, I mean, I guess.
I didn't know what that meant. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And there for a while, I remember being on, like, MySpace and stuff in middle school thinking, okay, gay people are wrong. Like, because my dad had told me that.
Ugh, yeah.
And then in middle school, I had a really, really good friend named Jasmine that was dating a girl that was in our class. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's really not that bad. Because I seen in their relationship that it was no different than the straight couples that I was seeing.
Right.
I mean, in middle school, we love. You know, they had their bickerness. They had the same issues that the straight couple on my left was having.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, it's no different. What does it matter if she's with a girl? What's it matter if she's with a guy?
Mm-hmm.
And there for a while, there was rumors going around that me and her were together. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And then at 16, I actually had this girl and me that were actually trying to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I wasn't going to be one of those ones that are secret.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to hide them in a relationship with somebody. And so I tried telling my stepmom, who, you know, of course, ran to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried telling me that it wasn't going to happen in his house and that I was moving back to Pennsylvania with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, almost my junior year in high school. I didn't want to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And
I was like, okay, you know, whatever. I'll just shove it down. I'll deal with it.
Ugh.
And then at 17, I met my husband. And I think because of him is why my dad accepts it now. When I was with him, it wasn't the best.
Oh, it's like that was proof to him. Based on how that went, he was like, oh, okay, yeah, she is. She's not just saying this.
My husband was very kind of abusive in a way. We were both, it's kind of embarrassing, but the way I met him was, he was my drug dealer. I got on drugs there for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on drugs. I don't remember pretty much my sophomore year of high school. I was stoked out of my mind the whole time.
I mean, if you don't mind, like what?
Pills, mostly.
Wow.
I had a really bad narcotics
Uppers,
issue.
downers?
Both.
No kidding.
Yeah. I had a really bad issue.
Wow.
So I met him like that, and...
Did that continue into your marriage?
Yes.
Wow.
And that was why our marriage didn't work, pretty much, because I got clean. Now, he never really did what I would say pills until he got in a truck accident, and his mother was on some serious pain pills because of her health. And she was giving them to him to try to help his back pain.
Mm-hmm.
And he got addicted to them. I mean, he always smoked weed and stuff like that, but when he started the pills, it was just, he was a different person. I got clean, and he didn't.
Did you do it on your own? Did you do any, like, 12-step or any programs or anything?
My dad kind of locked me in a room for 3 days and made me withdraw. When he found out...
Did you just stay clean, or did you get, like, did he force you to get clean and then you stayed clean, or...?
No, he forced me to get clean, and then there was some issues.
Oh, okay.
My stepmom was the one that actually kind of got me started on it, and he didn't know that at the time.
Oh.
There was a lot of problems there.
Gee.
But he forced me to get clean, and I got caught because I accidentally got drug tested at a doctor's office. Is how I got caught. Is how he found out. I was having, like, some serious, like, issues, and I went to the doctor, and they drug tested me, and I didn't know it.
And they just come in with a rap sheet of like,
yeah.
I don't know if you know what's in your body right now.
I remember my stepmom, like, acting like she was, like, so dumbfounded. And I remember looking at her like, you're the one that gave them to me. Like, what are you doing? But she,
So literally, if I'm getting the timeline right, she was starting to give you things, and then at some point you met the dude who was dealing,
and I was doing it on
that
my
gave
own.
you access to just do it on your own.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. She started it, but I started doing it on my own.
Wow.
And then he made me get clean, and I didn't talk to Chris for a while. And then we ended up being neighbors in the same apartment complex. And apparently my stepmom knew his mom and his stepdad from school.
Okay.
And it just kind of went down from there. And he was pretty much clean when we got together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his mom had problems, but she was awesome. She was an awesome woman. And we got together, we got married, and like my dad kicked me out when I was 18 because they were moving to another town, and I wanted to finish my high school where I was, and so he told me that, you know, you either do what I say or you get out. Well, I got out. And my mother-in-law was the most amazing woman. She took me in. She never questioned anything. Me and her son was young. We shouldn't have been able to do everything that we did, but she stood behind us the whole time.
Wow.
Unfortunately, she passed away the same year that I divorced my husband, but
Before or after?
During. Our divorce was not final at her funeral. Yeah, I had filed, but it wasn't done.
How did she handle that?
She was wonderful about it. I mean, she didn't like it. She's like, you know, I really hate that I'm losing you, you know, but I mean, me and Ashley were already together. And we went over there to spend the night with her all the time. I helped take care of her because she had some health issues and she had lost some of her toes. And I was helping take care of her because I was actually a CNA at the time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Is that what you do now?
No.
Oh.
I actually don't do anything now except go to college.
Okay.
But I've had my CNA since I was 17.
Wow.
But I took care of her, and she was a wonderful woman. She never made me feel like I was a loser ex because.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when she passed away, me and her son was still married.
Did she know about his dealing and all
yes.
that? And she was just like, well, you know, we all gotta.
Yes.
Gotta make some scratch. Whatever works. Wow.
Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. But.
Jeepers. So, in all of the years since being baptized and since not being a part of the church, you mentioned your name being on the records, which I'm confident that it is. I have to imagine that at some points, like, missionaries knocked on your door, either just randomly or because maybe they had found you for whatever reason. Like,
yeah, I got approached actually in Kentucky not too long ago.
Yeah?
From missionaries. I didn't even know they were in that area because I didn't even know there was a Mormon church.
Right.
And they were coming around the apartment complex, and I'm like, oh, those are missionaries. And they came over, and I remember I was not nice to them. I was very hostile.
Hostile or just indifferent? You were just like...
I guess I was indifferent.
Like one-word answers to their questions.
Because they were like, you know, about the church. I'm like, where is there a church around here of the Latter-day Saints? And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
She speaks our language.
I've already been there. And I'm like, yeah, actually, I was baptized in your guys. And he's like, oh. And I was like, you're not going to want me. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, first of all, you can't come in my house. And they're like, looking at me like, what? And I'm like, I don't have a male over 18 here. You can't come in here. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm married to a woman and you can't come in.
Oh, man.
And they're like, oh. And I'm like, you don't want me anyway. I'm married to a woman and then you guys aren't going to accept me. And they're like, oh, well, you know, we accept all, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but no.
Wow.
I haven't, and then I've seen them a few times here and there in Katanning.
Yeah.
When I go see my grandmother, but I don't really get stopped by them too much anymore, unless I'm there.
Yeah.
But they come and see her, so.
So she may not be active, but is still involved enough
Yes.
that they're coming to, like, visit.
Yeah, they see her. I don't know. I was down there last week, and she said she had a meeting with them on Tuesday, so.
Wow.
They do come down.
And you and her have a good relationship. Is she... Does she make efforts to influence you towards that, or is she pretty
No,
okay?
She's pretty okay with it. I mean, we've been close.
I'm so shocked I don't have a memory of this woman. I can see your mother in my head. And I'm like, who is Darla? Like, where? I'm looking around the house in my brain.
Yeah,
like,
she's become very unphotogenic since she's gotten older.
Oh.
Like my wedding, I was allowed to take one picture. I wasn't allowed to post it, and I wasn't allowed to do anything with it. She has a Facebook, but
wow.
she we have a really good relationship actually. a really good. I mean, since she was diagnosed with breast cancer, I realized how close I was to losing her.
Yeah.
Because she got diagnosed with the most aggressive kind you can.
Oh.
They didn't actually think she was going to live it. So.
Wow.
And I lost my other grandmother when I first, because that's why we moved back home. I was living in Kentucky and was fine, and my other grandmother got sick. So my mom moved back up here, and then we all moved up here. And then she kind of died right after that. So I try to keep in contact with my grandfather and my grandmother as much as I can.
Yeah. So I get geographically confused, mostly just because I haven't lived here in 15 years. But does she still live in Katanning?
Katanning's that way.
Katanning's that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Butler's that way. Katanning's
Butler's
that
that
way.
way. Was it intentional that you ended up here? Do you not dig Katanning, or is that too far from like where she works?
She works in Harmony, but when we first moved up here, I was living in Shakora. When we first moved back up here, it was in 2015, I think. No, it was 2014. Because when we first moved up here, we moved up here in April.
Yeah.
Ashley left in May for drill.
Okay.
Or for basic training.
Yeah.
And she was gone for almost a year.
Wow.
So we moved up here because she's like, your grandmother's getting sick. I need you to be with family. Because there was nothing for me in Kentucky. After me and Ashley got together, my family moved up here. Like, all my family's from here.
Yeah.
So we were living in Shakora. And then my grandmother died. And my mom moved out there to Petrolia.
Okay.
Where they're from. And then I kind of ended up in Butler. Because of work. I worked at a nursing home in Butler, Shelbourne, down Route 8 toward Pittsburgh, and just kind of stayed. And I just kind of stayed. And then actually, 2 years ago, we moved back to Kentucky for a while.
Oh, okay.
Because Ashley's grandmother got sick.
Oh.
But then when she left for truck driving school, there was nothing left for me there either. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I have a best friend that's still down there, and I still go down every month, but there was nothing left. And my grandmother, and I wanted to be with my other grandmother and my grandfather, and so we ended up here, and I tried moving to Katanning, but it's hard to find anywhere that I can have a, pit bull. And let alone with him, but I have 3 dogs.
Oh, okay.
So 3, and on top of them, and on top of me saying, "Oh, he's a pit bull," they won't allow me. She's actually living in you remember in Katanning there was that huge college? There was
not off the top of my head.
Huge college there. Well, they tore it down.
Oh, did they? Okay.
And they made like an elderly apartment complexes.
Okay.
They're nice little cottages.
Yeah?
And that's where her and my step-grandfather lived.
Oh, okay. So, my opinion of a CNA is that that's not like a simple thing to get.
No.
And you had one at 17.
Yes.
And yet, here you are. Why go back to school? What's your plan now?
Okay. My schooling has been all over the place as well.
Yeah?
Because I'm one of those people that apparently I want to have a hand in everything. I went to school at first. I got my CNAs because I was part of this outreach, not really outreach, but like this work program in high school that helped seniors get jobs.
Yeah.
And I kept saying I wanted to do something with a nursing home. I mean, my mom worked in a nursing home my entire life.
Oh, okay.
And I used to go and help her when I was a kid. So I fell in love with old people. And I thought that I was going into this job as just a volunteer at this nursing home. And next thing I know, they've got me in classes to get my CNAs. I'm like, okay, I can handle this.
Yeah.
And that was in 2010 or something like that. And I've kept them ever since. But when I moved up here, I didn't want to do skilled. I did skilled for a little bit, but then I found out that my real passion was personal care. And I liked it better. But I went to school. My first degree is associates in healthcare administration. Because I wanted to help elderly people. And then I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. It was heartbreaking.
Oh.
And because I got really close with one of my administrators, like she's one of my great friends. And seeing her job and seeing what she went through, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So my bachelor's is in psychology. because I wanted to be a therapist to help soldiers with who has PTSD, because soldiers have always been a special place in my heart as well, and my dad suffers from PTSD. Not as aggressive, but he still does.
Yeah.
And then I found out that once I started my master's program, that marriage and family therapy may not be my thing. Like, I failed one of the classes, and I'm like, no, I don't really think I can. So right now, I'm back into my master's program, and I'm getting a master's in psychology, but I'm studying gender diversity.
Oh.
Yeah.
So as to then provide services to people who are like transitioning, or people who are just trying to come out, or just whatever.
Yes. Our big goal is what me and my wife has actually talked about for a while, is we would like to open a LGBTQ like homeless shelter in Pittsburgh. So we're working on that.
That's like hyper specific, but I bet very needed.
Yes.
Wow.
But I mean, Ashley's the one that inspired me for that, because she got kicked out. I mean, thank God she was 18 when she got kicked out and could get stuff and help. And thank God my dad took mercy on us and was like, yeah, she can come live with us.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of teens out there that once they come out to their parents, they get kicked out.
Yeah.
And they have nowhere to go. And it's sad. And especially in a big city like Pittsburgh. I mean, that's a lot of, like, I don't remember the statistics, but there's a lot of percentage of the homeless people that are gay. Because they have nowhere to go. Just because of who they love.
Wow.
So I wanted to open up a shelter for the teens that have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
My goal is I want to do, like, the big holidays, because nobody really has anywhere to go for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do a big thing for that.
Is the Gay Pride Parade connected to an organization? Like, I'm guessing someone actually puts it on.
They're called Delta Foundation.
Okay.
And they have a lot of stuff going in Pittsburgh, too. They help a lot.
So is your initial or your eventual intention to maybe get hooked up with them in some way and branch off into this whole thing?
Yeah, I want to email them eventually and, like, find out, like, what do I need to do to do this.
So, I mean, right now it's just the degree. Once you have the degree in hand, then you can start.
Yes, because, I mean, it's not really, I know I don't have to have the degree, but I think the degree will help make more of a stand.
Yeah.
Like, when I go for the paperwork, or when I go and do this, hey, I have a master's in this, let's do this. Like, I know what I'm doing. So.
That is so incredible.
It's also inspired us we're getting ready to start our license for foster care, too.
Fun.
Yeah. I actually have an event to go to in like 3 weeks to find out all the info that goes down with foster care.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe you're too fresh into the system to really even know about this, but I get the feeling like up to recently the courts have favored heterosexual homes, but I'm guessing that's got to be shifting pretty aggressively. Is that not accurate?
Yes and no.
Okay.
With Trump being in office right now, I don't really get into politics.
But you kind of have to at this point.
I don't really know. Like, right now, Trump has a ban on transgenders in the military. So that's kind of putting a stop in all of our plans.
Wow.
And he doesn't agree with gay people. We've all known that from the beginning.
Right.
So it's kind of scary to think about what's going to stop us from doing anything. What choices do we have?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I remember actually just like 2 weeks ago, me and Ashley had a serious conversation, and we're scared in a way to be who we are in this world right now. Mm-hmm. Because I know Trump is not saying, okay, go out there and bash all the gay people.
Right.
But he's spewing hate.
Yeah.
And it's causing people to take what he's saying and run with it. Not Trump's fault, in a way. But people are taking what he's saying and turning it into just this hate.
Yeah.
I mean, just 3 weeks ago, 2 trans people got lynched because they're trans.
Where was that?
Somewhere up here, but I don't remember what town.
Oh, like locally?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, they got lynched, and it's like, no, Trump's not saying go out there and kill them, but when he puts bans and stuff on it.
I think that's... The weird thing about Donald Trump is, like, before he was president, I was aware of him in the sense that he's just a rich and powerful man, and, he became celebrity through reality shows and things like that. I don't think I even thought twice about him. I just was aware that he was a thing, and...
Me too.
Just he seemed to be he just seemed to be a successful human, and good for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he became, a politician and wins the presidency, and I just don't think any of us have been able to really think about anything else since, because he really hasn't let us. Like, it's just it's been such a ride. And what I'm curious about is, I've been thinking actually a lot about the way George W.'s presidency ended. Where when he finished his presidency, a lot of the questions that he was getting was, if we look at your administration, we can acknowledge fairly that a majority of the things that happened weren't even your idea. However, you signed the dotted line. You
You're the face
were
of
an
it.
instrumental. Yeah, exactly. You were a big instrument in these things either happening or at least just being the face of it and communicating really poorly about it in the long run, and that we're going to hold you accountable for. I wonder, when Trump is out of office, frankly, I guess I wonder with him being in office, I wonder if he even has the wisdom, the perspective to understand that regardless of whether he's not actually telling anybody to do anything horrible to anybody else, that you said it perfectly, he's making hate speech
without actually
okay.
Yes.
He's giving people space and room because of his behavior to feel more comfortable talking in hateful ways. And you just, as a man thinketh, so is he. You can't think that way without it eventually becoming a behavioral and an action thing.
It's been like that since he got into office. I mean, right away there was riots and Trump said this, Trump said that.
Yeah.
I don't get into politics. I don't really understand any of it. The only thing that I do know is someone needs to take Trump's Twitter away from him.
I'm shocked between him having a corporate publicist who deals with just his image and him being in the most powerful seat in the world, how nobody has just been like,
shut your Twitter
you can't
off.
do this. There's never been a president in the history of this world who has ever communicated through anything but the White House secretary or whoever. That's how you're not allowed to do this. And yet I'm sure on some level he probably just started crying like Fifth Amendment. And he's like, yes, I'm the president, but I'm also a citizen.
Yes.
And they're just like, well, we can't let you on that. Go off and destroy the world.
Because I think Trump would have had the most opportunities to do anything he wanted to do. I said that from the beginning. Between him and Hillary, I wanted him because I thought, you'd be great. You run a great business. You're a freaking millionaire or more. And America needs to be run like a business. America does. But the social side with the gays and, pro-life, pro-choice, whatever, he has just completely ruined it all. I mean, you can't he was against everything that I stand for, though. He hates women. He hates gay people. He hates the military. And that was, at the time when he was running, that's actually still now. That's pretty much my entire life. I mean, the military runs this household. As much as we don't want it to, we have to wait for them to say what we do. Our favorite saying in this house is hurry up and wait. But it scares me with Ashley being in the military and wanting to go active. Now, I don't think she's going to be able to unless the lower court systems say, no, Trump, you can't do that.
Yeah. Which I guess is part of the only security that any of us can feel, is that our government is set up with sufficient checks and balances that, the people really are still in charge. He talks in such a way, and I think the government's just gotten so big over the last 40 or 50 years that we as citizens have actually stopped understanding how it even works.
Yes.
And so when he talks the way he talks on Twitter and such, our fear is, wait, can he really do that? Because we just don't even know what his seat has the power to do anymore.
I remember feeling that fear when Obama was in.
Really?
Because there was rumors about him starting martial law. I don't remember exactly why, but there was
That's interesting.
there was rumors
Like,
that he was going to
around the time of the bombings and stuff? I feel like there was maybe the Boston bombing. I feel like I heard some talk about that.
Yeah, he was going to do a martial law. I had to look it up. I didn't know what that was, but I knew it didn't sound good.
Yeah.
And then after I read about it, I'm like, can he really do that? Can we really go through that?
It's sort of interesting watching Trump even, try to negotiate this wall, because his major threat in the middle of these quote-unquote negotiations is, listen, guys, at the bottom line, if you don't give me my $5 billion or whatever to build this wall, all I've got to do is pull my presidency Trump card. Like, he's got some state of emergency that he can call, and it just gives him the power to do it anyway. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you're as much of an asshole as I think you are, I don't know why you haven't already done that. Like, what do you stand to benefit from these negotiations? Are you really interested in keeping the government together, or do you just want your damn wall, and all you got to do is just flip the switch?
Yes. It's scary to think about that they actually do. I mean, I remember growing up hearing about, well, the president doesn't really have all that much pull. He's just a face, blah, 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 blah. But Trump is making me rethink all of that.
Yeah.
Like, what can he really do? And what's scary is, like, my mom made the comment the other day, well, he's almost done. But he's got 4 more years that he'll probably get voted in, because that's the way this world works.
Do you think?
I think. As much as he has crap and stuff, there's a lot of people that support him.
Even just recently, they've started, like, announcing some of the candidates for 2020, and some of them are interesting. Like, the guy that owns McAfee internet software, like security software.
I think Trump has really opened the door for regular people.
Now anybody. It's just anybody's game.
So, yeah, it's kind of scary to think about, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when Obama was in office, gay people was amazed because he legalized marriage in all 50 states. And it was the reason why I'm allowed to be married to who I am. But now, and that was the first thing that Obama said, or that Trump said when he was running, was, I want to stop the, gay people aren't allowed to be married anymore.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, okay, well, what's going to happen to the ones that are already married?
Yeah.
Like, we were already married, like, 2 years when, and I'm like, what are we going to do? And now I'm sitting here thinking, if he can't have if he's saying trans people can't be in the military, active duty, or anything, what's going to happen to all the active people that are? I have, like, 4 friends that are trans that are in active military. And I'm just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair. They fight for our country. I understand in the beginning. Like, we went to a recruiter, and he said that Ashley shouldn't start transitioning until after she goes active, because it would be kind of hard. Because a lot of active people that switch from the National Guard to active duty, they have to go through the MEPS again, which is the military doctor part of it, where they examine them.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, and then if they do have to go back to basic training or other trainings, if they're in the middle of transitioning, where do you put them?
Yeah.
You put them with the females, you put them with the males. So that part I understand.
Yeah.
But if they're already active, it's pretty much a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday job, unless they're deployed. So what's the problem? So
I feel like the only example I've heard of an argument as far as, where do you put them or what are they allowed to do or any of that sort of thing, Joe Rogan ends up talking about a lot of this stuff on his podcast, and he's talked about how in UFC specifically, there are some examples of some transition, and he's like, part of the problem becomes if a man transitions to become a woman and then is fighting UFC on the female side, sure, you can, adjust the parts and the hormones can have an impact on the physiology of the person. But men and women are physically different. The bone structure, the shoulders, so when you're talking about fighting, that's not a woman going into that ring to fight. That is physically a man with all of the physical dominance of a man going into that ring to fight a woman. And he's like, if you watch the fights, that woman's just getting pummeled because it's a man with all the physical fighting, the athletic benefits of being a man going into that ring. So militarily, it makes me concerned about the women transitioning to men because, physically speaking, I mean, I know the military's got a lot of different jobs, so it doesn't necessarily mean they're out on the front lines or what have you, but considering the physicality of what they may or may not be doing, like, they're going to be bringing kind of a different physicality to the role, then it's based on that argument, based on Joe's argument, like, that seems to be why men were always sent in to fight. Because men, just in, like, the evolutionary, like, the ape brain of it all, like, we're instinctually wired, we're physically built, we're just designed to go out and kill the saber-toothed tiger so the family can have dinner, you know? Like,
I think now, I mean, like, laws have changed with women and men in the military. Like, recently women are allowed to join artillery now, when they weren't allowed to before. But my dad was artillery, and when he was artillery, women were not allowed in. But now they are. But I still don't think they're allowed on the front line. I don't think.
Makes sense.
It's always been the rule. Women are not allowed on the front line because they're afraid that the men would get distracted by trying to protect them.
Wow.
Captain!
That's interesting that, like, that makes sense to me, but I wouldn't have thought that that's the reasoning behind it. I would just be thinking, like, the woman, again, just physical prowess may not stand as much of a chance against the enemy, but to even take it the other way where men, instinctually speaking, are also protective of women, so now she's a liability. Now their focus is somewhere else.
And that's the problem. They need to be focusing on in front of them, not what's beside them. I mean, the military also is a fine line there, too, because they tell you all the time, like, you know, you guys are a family, protect blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I understand that, because I remember fighting with my dad about that when I was a kid. I was always kind of a feminist. And I remember saying, well, why can't women be out there? Like, why can't we do whatever we want to do?
Yeah.
And he told me that, like, you know, we would be focused on you guys, not what we're supposed to be doing, and get everybody killed.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad we had that talk. That's more for me to kind of mull over about that. Wow. So, the foster thing. 3 weeks, you got an event to go to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have, like, a goal in mind? Are you hoping to have kids in the home, like, within a year or two?
Hopefully within a year, because, like, we can't have them here. There's no room here.
Okay.
So our lease is up here in May.
Okay.
So our plan is I want to find a bigger house, and I want to try to get everything done to get my foster license, because you have to go through home studies and you have to go through background checks, and which
I imagine your degrees are probably going to be in your favor at that point. Like,
I hope so. And with both of us doing, like, I've had 4 FBI background checks done on me already for serious jobs or whatever, because with a couple months ago I joined a job that was like taking care of, like, autism kids.
Okay.
Okay. Technical support's calling me?
Yikes.
So I've had, since I've been lived out of state, I've had to have FBI background checks. So I know I'm good there. And with Ashley's military, she's already up there in the clearance.
Right.
So,
right.
We're hoping within a year, hopefully.
Wow.
I never thought that I could do it. We've been trying to have our own kid for 2 years now, and it's not.
Tell me about that.
I have my best friend's husband, actually, is my sperm donor.
Oh.
And that's why I go to Kentucky so much.
Got it.
I go down, like, every month, every other month. But I have what I would say medical issues. They thought for a long time I had PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome or something like that, where my ovaries don't release eggs like it's supposed to.
Oh.
But the doctor that I have now recently said that he doesn't think that's what the issue is. He thinks that it's my thyroid that's causing the issues.
Okay.
And I'm on this aggressive keto diet to try to lose all this weight. And he's got me on special, like, fertility drugs.
Oh.
That so far have not helped.
So even with the fostering and possible adoption in the future, your goal is still a biological child.
That's always been my goal. My goal was we wanted to have one of our own, and then I wanted to adopt one or two.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But it looks to me like right now we've been trying so much. I think that the having one of our own may not happen for a while.
Oh, that hurts.
I mean, that's what makes my best friend so wonderful though, because she's been there through me with everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And her last statement was when this last time didn't work.
Yeah.
She's like, well, then we may have to sit down and think of other options.
Yeah.
And she's actually offered carrying
That's
for me.
so cool that she's just like, well,
Yes.
we're not done. That just means...
Yes, and she's been like
Plan
that
B.
through the
Yeah.
whole thing. Like,
Oh,
her
that's
husband was one of my good friends in high school.
Yeah.
And we've always been friends. And when we were talking to them about what we were doing, I actually had another sperm donor. And when they came over and hung out, we were all talking. They came to me and was like, you know, Jake's really interested in being your sperm donor. And I'm like, awesome, because I didn't really care for the sperm donor at the time. Like, we did, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And they have been great through the whole thing.
Nice.
He's never made me feel uncomfortable about it, because it's a very awkward situation. Especially when
You're like, I know what you're doing to make that stuff.
Yes. And especially since we've been friends since high school.
Yeah.
So it's like very awkward, but he never makes it awkward. He has this he makes these crude comments, but he just makes you so much comfortable about it. And his wife...
Here's your baby gravy.
Yes, that's exactly what he says.
Is that what he says?
That's what he calls it. And he makes jokes all the time about, oh, you just want my sperm. Oh, you just want me for this. And he makes comments about, you know...
My eyes are up here.
Yes! And if I say something, he'll go, well, you just want me for my body. Or he's like that all the time.
Oh, that's great.
And his wife has just been my, like, number one supporter, encourager.
Yeah.
Like, I've called her in the middle of the night freaking out because, I mean, I'll be upset and it didn't take. And, like, the moment I know it didn't take, I'll text her and be like, you know, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I actually had one of those moments this month because we were taking care of my cousin's baby. We had him for like 2 months because the parents fell on some little hard times.
Yeah.
And they asked us if we would take him for a while until they got up on their feet. Well, we had him for 2 whole months. And you know how attached you can get to a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So I got really attached, and then they said, you know, hey, we're ready to take him back. And it absolutely broke my heart. And in the same week, my period started. So I knew that I wasn't pregnant either. And it just kind of all hit me at once. And I texted her and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm on an emotional roller coaster. I'm done.
Yeah.
I just can't. And she's like, you're not giving up. You're one of the strongest women I know. And we're not doing this. And if we have to, we'll stop and we'll start collecting money and we'll just take your egg and put it in me. And we'll just do what we have to.
I love her.
Yes. And she's never, ever let me fall. So, I actually have got, and she's, I mean, really amazing. And I have another friend that lives here that just had a baby, actually like 4 weeks ago. So, and she's been one of the supporters too, because she's over here going, well, you know, you can do this and you can do this, and like, let me give you ideas, you know. And like today, she's dragging me out of the house, and you know. So, the 2 really good friends that I've gotten pretty lucky with.
So on the foster side of things, do you two have a preference? Like newborns, teenagers?
Well, I'm a little nervous about the older kids.
Yeah.
Only because of them already having so much emotional baggage. But my goal and like that is we want babies that we can actually adopt. But we've had the discussion before that we're not going to turn away a teenager, because to us it's just they just need extra love.
Yeah.
I mean, we really believe that love can really help a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, yes, they might come in and they may be hateful and they may have whatever because we don't know what they went through.
Yeah.
But I really think that even if they get ripped away from me, because that's like Ashley has made the comment, like, do you think you really can do this? Because they can come and go. And I'm like, I'm not happy about that idea because I can just imagine myself and I can imagine my heart being ripped out of my chest every time I get a call saying, hey, the kid has to go back to their family.
Yeah.
But I think then my thought there is, well, if they look back on their life in the system, we all know the system is not the greatest.
Yeah.
But I think that if we treat them with respect and we treat them with love and we let them know there are people out there that aren't the same, that maybe that won't lead them down a path that I know they can go down. That maybe they can look back and say, okay, well, you know what? They were really good people. Mm-hmm. Maybe that actually means something. Yeah. So yes, maybe they were just only with me for a week. Mm-hmm. But maybe it'll lead them in their adulthood that I don't have to do this because I know there's people out there like that. Yeah. That's my goal anyway. I just want to do something that means something.
Well, if you ever feel like having a good cry with you and Ashley, there's a movie that came out this last year. It's called Instant Family. This guy, Troy, I forget his name, the director of it, went through the whole process himself and just decided that, there's some movies about, families that get, squashed together, just mother, father with kids and stuff like that. But there just wasn't a movie that really tackled, the process of adopting very well. So he wrote one. Mark Wahlberg's in it, Rose Byrne. It's not a small movie, but really emotional. Very, both funny and, just all the silly... there's this one scene, they've had the kids... They haven't adopted him yet. They're just acting as a foster family at the point. And they've had the kids for, 3 or 4 weeks. And they both get to their bed at the end of an exhausting day. And they have this, horrible conversation about, can we give them back? Is there a return policy on this? And they're just going back and forth, just these really horrible negative things that they're saying to each other, and they basically, go to sleep that night, they're like, yeah, we're giving back, and they get up the next day, and, they don't end up doing that, but I heard him on an interview talking about the fact that he's part of the reason I want to show that is, it actually gets this hard. There are times during it where you're just no, I'm out. I'm done. I realize they're human beings and they need affection, they need care, but I didn't realize what this was going to take from me, and I'm out. Forget this. But anyway, I don't know.
That's crossed my mind. When we had the baby for a couple months and, the day would be bad, I'm like, okay, no. I'm calling his mom. No, you come get him. But then he would do something, and then in the very next instant, he would look at me like, I'd be like, okay, no, I can't give you back. Okay.
Oh, man. Well, Kacie, it means the world to me, especially since I think arguably I spent the least amount of time in your life of probably any missionary. Really. I wasn't there all that long, but I
no, but still.
Super appreciate you letting me come in.
You were still there for the most important part of it.
Yeah. And we came over for months, me and Bonnell, and kept talking with you guys. I actually remember one of my most powerful moments as a missionary was something he said to me about you guys in our apartment, because I think what was happening was we were friends with you and stuff, but we were also really close to your mom. Right. And she would tell us about things going on. I remember one night, just I don't know, happenstancely, we ended up going to your house at 9 o'clock at night or something. Arguably we shouldn't have been there. We should have been on our way home. But Bonnell just felt like we should drop by, and we were parked out in front of your house for 5 minutes. I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, I don't know. And your mom pulled up, and we were weird. So we got out of the car and we were talking to her, and I guess she was just telling us some stuff going on with your dad and some other things. And we went home. We'd been talking, me and Bonnell, the whole ride home, and I guess I just was caught up in my own perspective about it, or I was just we need to do something about this, and, I had my own ideas about whatever, and he, in his Bonnell way, where, Bonnell can express himself in a very small way, but it just pays huge dividends, he said to me, good intentions pave the road to hell. In other words, saying to me, you're so caught up in your good intentions for wanting this family to be happy that you don't realize that what you could be, leading them into is not the best for them. And he said some families are just happier apart. And that doesn't make any part of them, like, bad or anything. It just, some families just end up being happier that way. And it was the first time that, like, concept, sort of settled on my mind or my heart. And it's really, like, stuck with me in the years since where, we talked about it earlier, like the 7-year itch thing, and sometimes couples, like, split up just because they think they want something different. Like, sometimes, life is an evolution, and we evolve as people, and so sometimes it just, sometimes you move on to something else, and societally we think, oh, a breakup, oh, a divorce, oh, that's the worst thing. Is it? Because maybe you got what you needed from each other, and maybe that time in your life together was really impactful and really helped your growth, and maybe the next phase of your growth happens elsewhere, and that's okay. Like, instead of me getting caught up in this, like, Christian ideal of marriage is for eternity, just be like, well, that's a nostalgically pleasant way to look at marriage when it's just like, this is forever. But if you can break yourself open a little bit and allow for the perspective of human evolution and development, like, maybe not.
Yeah, Barnell was there a lot with that. There was a lot of problems going on with my parents at the time.
Mm.
And Barnell would never be able to thank him enough, because he helped me a lot during that time. And I don't think he ever really knew. But I was young, didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And he never judged. He never anything. He was just there.
Yeah.
And I think my parents' marriage alone taught me a lot.
Yeah.
My dad was, I wouldn't say he was mean, but he was a very hard person when my parents were married the first time.
Mm-hmm.
When they divorced, he got married to what you would actually classify as an evil stepmother.
Wow.
Like Cinderella's stepmother. Terrible.
Oh.
She was very abusive, very, not really physically, mentally. She would break you down.
Worse. Yeah.
And I never saw my dad so broken in the last year of their marriage. And but like my mom says now, like, maybe it brought him down a peg or two. Like, we don't ever want to see my dad go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never. And he's got back to his old ways a little bit now, to where he's the big, strong, 6'4" man. But him and my mom's relationship is a lot different than it was the first time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And he's mellowed out. Part of that is age, part of that is whatever, but I held a lot of issues with him when I was in high school, because he left me alone a lot with her. And there was a lot of problems. And now I couldn't ask for a better father. He's always there for me, even if he is thousands of miles away. They work out in Nebraska, so they only come home every few months. But he's always there. So I really think that sometimes you do have to get apart to find out and look at different perspectives. Yeah. I think it helps. My marriage probably shouldn't last as long as it has now, because we're never together. But I couldn't ask for a better one.
Yeah. You're the best. You're awesome. Thank you again for doing this. And,
thank you.
Yeah, we gotta keep in touch.
Definitely.
This is fun.
I've been following you a lot on Instagram, and I love your music, so.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, I'll come back sometime, and we'll.
Where do you live at?
Arizona.
Oh, well, that's quite a bit of a drive.
It was a few flights, yeah, that's for sure. But yeah. You guys should come out sometime if you're into the heat.
Ashley has been out there a couple times with her over the road experience, and she liked it.
Nice.
I've been out there a couple times with my dad. We went from like Georgia to California.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was raised on a big rig, so always out there somewhere.
Good living. Cool. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.